It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and when I seen this beer, when this beer was handed to me by nearestbeershop.com, we'll talk about them in a moment. It brought back memories. It brought back memories to me of lust, kind of like the first flickers of the light bulb switching on when you're a late teenager and maybe something slightly going on in your groin area, you know, as a teenager, you're like, ooh. It was a TV series in the 1990s, and it was called Lady Chatterley's Lover, I think. This is called Lady Chatterley's Westie, which reminded me of that television series. It's by Pretty Decent Beer Co. in London. She obviously had a dog. She obviously had a Westie. Unless this is just a Westie as in a West Coast IPA. Probably. It's 5.5% ABV in a 440 milliliter can. I think it was a young Sean Bean in it. And, well, let's get the beer out first. It's a 2-finger white head, little bits of sediment floating around in the glass, and it's kind of a yellowy, straw-coloured, hazy looking beer, 5.5% ABV. Let's get the aroma on the beer then. Oh yeah. Yeah, pretty tremendous actually, pretty tremendous. It's got this sort of like lemon zip to it. And you can tell, when a beer is lighter, I have done a couple of beer reviews this morning where the beers have been sort of like a darker malt. And that offers up definitely more of a balance, definitely more of a kind of malty, biscuity balance to the beer. But with this malt being so light, and with the hops that they've used, this is more like a lemon zest, more of a lemon zesty, little bit of, you do get a little bit of that kind of dry yeast coming through as well. It smells great. The beer is available from our channel sponsor, nearestbeershop.com. Nearestbeershop.com, fabulous range of beers, over 250 in stock, all in those fridges there. Can you see the picture? All in those fridges. Craft beer, craft cider, spirits, mead, beer subscription club, and they're based in Caroline Street in Bridgend. It's literally off the corner of the train station, round the corner from the train station. If you want a train beer, I always say if your train's delayed in Bridgend, pop round the corner to nearest beer shop and get some beer there. It's absolutely fantastic. So you get 5% off when you use the voucher code Stone the Crows. That's all lowercase, and it's free delivery over £60. So there we go. Try it out. I am going to tell you the story of Lady Chatterley, at least the television story that was probably on ITV back in the day. But let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. That's fantastic. That is so juicy. Zesty and juicy and kind of lemon-like, and like biting into a lime or biting into an orange peel. Citrusy and grapefruity and really in your face, Little bit of bitterness on the back end. I say a little bit, it's a West Coast IPA. Probably more than I should mention it a little bit more, shouldn't I? Let's get another taste. There's quite a bit of beer in this can. Oh yes, yes, because look at this, look at the sediment. That's a can conditioned beer if ever I've seen one. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. There's some great big particles of sediment there, isn't there? That's probably one of the most sediment filled cans that I've ever reviewed on the channel. Quite easily. But what it does, it adds an extra dimension to the beer. It takes away some of the carbonation. That's what I find when you pour the yeast or the sediment into the beer. It takes away a little bit of the carbonation if your beer is a little bit aggressive. This is not aggressive. But then it offers what I find with it. We'll try it in a moment again with the yeast in, but for me it offers up a dryness. You definitely get more of a dry, slightly more lethargic beer. Yeah, mellow. Like the beer's gone for a little lie down. That is beautiful, juicy, tropical, a bit like Lady Chatterley. Let me get to this story. So, I think I watched an episode with my dad, and I think my dad chose it as an exercise. I'm not going to say I was a little bit slow. I definitely was a little bit slow. There were definitely things that my parents didn't know about. As you do. You don't tell your parents stuff like that, do you? But anyway, he chose to watch this Lady Chatterley's Lover with me. He probably heard stuff in work. Whoa, it's one of those, one of those 1980s, 1990s television programs where the women always seem to get their knockers out and that sort of stuff. So he used it as an exercise to I don't know, do a weird dad thing. Anyway, I watched this thing. Always embarrassing when you're watching stuff like that in front of your dad. But the story goes, Lady Chatterley had a very wealthy husband, but he was disabled. He was in a wheelchair. She was caring for him. She was having to pick him up, put him into bed. His thingy wasn't working. So, being a lady, probably in her 30s and 40s, she was still very much active, and she struck up a friendship with Sean Bean, who was a young gardener tending to her garden. And yeah, she ended up going down to his garden shack, and and all sorts of stuff would be going on in the garden shack. Yeah, it was just basically an exercise in another television program where in the 90s ladies got their breasts out. Another really brilliant one, which I can't remember. Lipstick on My Collar. Can anybody remember Lipstick on My Collar? That was the one. That was like my. That was like my as a like, because what you got to remember is television programs back then. You had BBC, which was dry as a bone, always has been. BBC Two, which was even drier as a bone. ITV, which is a little bit more kind of like commercialised, and then Channel 4, which was they used to take the mick out of Channel 4 because that's after 9 o'clock, that's all that used to happen, and that was it. 4 channels, no internet, 4 channels, and you used to record stuff. You used to record bits of certainly my dad did. You record bits of like Lady Chatterley's Lover, and you just play it back endlessly, like. But my favourite was Lipstick on Your Collar. It was a 1990s. My goodness me, that woman in there, she was outrageously good looking. She was so pretty, busty as well, which I like. Anyway, Lady Chatterley's Westie. I like it. Beer is for everyone. Pretty decent beer called London. I like that and have to give it a Stone the Crows 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.